Welcome to another episode of the Renewable Energy Movement, powered by Kigyo. Today's guest is Roderik von Meyenfeldt, working in Amsterdam for Sunrock. Roderik has experience in the real estate and property background before making his move into renewables. How was that introduction?
Perfect.
Good stuff.
All good.
Thanks for coming on, Roderik. Like always, we like to start at the beginning. How did your career start before you made the switch to renewables?
Yeah, good question, actually, Tom. For me, I started in the real estate industry sector, and after my study at the university, and I studied human geography and spatial planning, is a really broad study, and has all to do with spatial planning and building environment, that kind of stuff. I started working in a small company that advises the government on how to cope with their real estate portfolio, and that was back in the days. I think that was 2014. There was quite some questions about, okay, what can we do with transition real estate into in other usage forms, offices for residential for offices or retail, that kind of stuff. And there I tasted firstly about, okay, how is the real estate market actually from a government perspective working, and what kind of interested aspects are there. At that beginning, I was already busy with talking about how you can use your portfolio or your real estate different. But what about sustainability? What about make your real estate also more future proof? So there it started.
Yeah, and I can imagine, I'm guessing because I'm not an expert in the space, but I imagine there were certain kind of incentives and grants and things for making parts of your portfolio more sustainable, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, although that kind of that was not really evaluated back then, 10, 11 years ago. It was available, but not really top of mind. So that changed quite a lot, I would say, in the sector.
And you worked for a couple of different companies doing similar roles. Is that correct?
Yeah. So no, not entirely. So what I started in that advisement role, and I found it out, well, advising is nice, but it's actually because of the sustainability aspect and an agenda that I'm having as such, I thought it's maybe more nicer to work with a company that also owns the asset itself, because then you have more grip. Then you can also steer better, and you can do something with your thoughts that you're having. So I switched it towards, or actually I got a nice opportunity, came across to join a company with a couple of friends to build up a real estate portfolio in Germany back then.
Okay.
And so we invested quite a nice adventure back then. Invested a lot in residential real estate all across Germany. Start building up a portfolio also to make the difference. In compared with other companies that are doing the same. And I had that agenda still in mind, what I just previously said when I had that advisory role, but the adventure was more on the part building and scaling something up. And see that adventure over there. I did that for 2 years, 3 years, and then I thought, okay, but the landscape of real estate is so big. So I started working in more advising at the government, local governments on real estate, and stepped to building a portfolio for residential real estate assets. And thought, okay, but there are other asset classes also quite interesting, and bumped actually in an opportunity to join a big American real estate owner company called Prologis, and actually was fully focusing on industrial logistic real estate. And there things start to move really quickly because I had the full scope at once. So I had started with a small portfolio, which I managed of buildings in the southern part of the Netherlands. And can kickstarted immediately also my sustainability mindset that I already had in mind. So solar on rooftop, but also LED lighting, also energy cost saving, all that kind of stuff was part of that role as well. Because the agenda of Prologis back then was really focused on getting the assets so as much sustainable as possible, and that's quite perfectly fitted together within. And that role expanded. At a certain point, I was actually busy with managing a portfolio in the Netherlands and in Belgium altogether, and was also responsible for the sustainability agenda we had in the Benelux back then. So we are now talking 2019. We started the program by putting as much as solar on rooftops within the Benelux as possible. Within 1.5 years, we contracted over 30 megawatts on solar projects on those rooftops. That was I think back then, the nicest part of the job that I was having.
Yeah, and I imagine that the Netherlands in particular, or the Benelux, was almost a worldwide leader in residential rooftop solar at that point. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, residential, I can't say that much, but I would say in general, solar equipment on rooftops itself, yes. And it had all to do with the program we had back then. So the government was had a quite progressive program when it came to subsidies. So there was quite of attractiveness to build business cases around this program for putting solar on rooftop, and that's skyrocketed, I would say. So not only within my former employee Prologis, but also by other firms, everyone was busy with putting as much as solar on their rooftops. And I think that program caused issues, which we are now facing nowadays, but also gave the opportunity to bring renewables towards another level within the Netherlands. And I think I said that caused other problems. The issues that we are now facing, so in terms of grid issues, we do not have any possibility to feed any electricity back on the grid anymore when it comes to renewables. Only certain hotspots have still enough availability. Just not say that we should or had to do something differently a couple of years ago, because still it's impressive what we have reached so far.
Yeah, agreed.
And to put it a little bit in perspective, I think over somewhere this April, May this year, the message came out that over 55% of the total energy supply in the Netherlands is coming from renewables at the moment.
It's impressive numbers for sure. And I mean, the connectivity is an issue that's worldwide, let's say. But I mean, I think the Netherlands, given how saturated it is, has probably experienced it quicker and more than others.
Yeah.
And then from Prologis, I mean, the real estate and development roles kind of cross over quite a lot, as we know. A lot of people have a background in real estate before going into certainly development phase of renewable projects. But then from Prologis, you moved to where you are today, which is Sunrock, and you went into a fully development-based position. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So what happened then is that after 4 years working within Prologis, and I was enjoying it a lot, I was also thinking, okay, but what is my strategic agenda? What is really what I want to do? And just stop thinking rational on it, but feel what your emotions are saying towards you, and then decide on what is your path and go onwards. And I realized that working with renewables and the electrification, or actually the energy transition that we are full in, that's the topic that is, on the one hand, I would say, from a social perspective, a need that we need to step into, but at the other end, the journey itself is also quite unclear. We know the path a little bit. Make sure that you have enough renewables available, which you can use, but how it is clicking into each other, and how we can use, and what impact it has on the society itself as well. That triggered me to think, okay, real estate is nice, and I would say my heart will always be a little bit real estate minded, but the adventure is clearly in the end and energy transition and the renewables that comes with it. And that's that click. And I must be honest, some people might hear this podcast will laugh a bit, but I took quite some time to make the decision. Okay, I go to make a step towards the renewable sector at fully, instead staying within the real estate sector. But after that decision, I got the opportunity to join Sunrock, building up their position within the German market back then. Sunrock tried already for a year or 1.5 years to enter that market, but not with full pool, I would say, just testing out a little bit. And the decision was made, no, 2022 will be the entering of Sunrock in the German market, which means concrete projects to build and that kind of stuff. Is there some similarities, would you say, with that market at the start of 22 to what the Dutch market or the Benelux market was back in 19? Yeah, fully. And the reason why is that the German government also came with a kind of similar program where the Netherlands started with in 2018. So basically, it was a copy paste of what Sunrock has done in the Netherlands in all those years, but then for the German market.
Do you speak German, Roderik?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I ask you how you navigated the German market of real estate without speaking German. But...
Yeah, I had already a little bit background because I worked within the real estate sector in Germany for 2 years. So that's why I learned already the basics. But yeah, I need to reinvent myself a little bit there.
Yeah, yeah. I've done a lot of international recruitment in my time, and I've never known a sector that requires the local language quite like this one. You know, the world in many ways is such a smaller place with people emigrating and living in different countries, and Amsterdam's a prime example. You know, everybody speaks English, but I've never known a
Exactly.
sector where, particularly in this development phase, like the local language is so critical.
Yeah. But after wrapping that up and getting get level of language knowledge, I would say that's now I'm fully fine with speaking German. And yeah, I'm totally with you. It helps a lot when you know the local language in Germany to get things on the roll and moving.
Yeah, for sure. And that, so then you spent the first year and a half or something focusing fully on the development of the German market. And were you still based in the Netherlands, or were you living then in Germany?
I have a hybrid role, so I'm living in the Netherlands and working for the German market, paneling constantly between our offices we have in Germany, so in Düsseldorf and Hamburg, and Amsterdam. So no, I did not move. Was on the table, but decided now the travel distance between my home place and the office in Düsseldorf is not so big that it is really necessary to move and to live in German.
Yeah, there's good train links. I know. I make that journey quite a lot myself. And so it takes us into your current role today. Then, so what's your current position today, and talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so currently I'm actually responsible for the commercial part of the project we are doing within in the German market. This is actually a shared role, so I do that not on my own. I have two peers actually that are doing the same, and we have divided the market actually in different sectors, and we are focusing on the logistic real estate sector at the one hand in Germany, but also in the industry sector. And the industry in Germany is quite bigger than in the Netherlands, so it makes sense to focus there on that as well. And we split that between the two other peers. And my responsibility is really get the commercial project towards close. So make sure that you have a commercial alignment and agreement on the conditions. Make sure that the legal frameworks are there, and that basically the route is set to build those projects on the rooftops that we have selected.
Yeah. And how have you found things this year in particular in Germany?
What we see is that also the business in Germany is coming towards a stage that it is stabilizing a bit. So what we see in the Netherlands is that grid congestion is hot topic. And still is for a couple of years, and the trends are showing that in Germany we're moving slowly towards that similar direction, and that makes it tougher to get approval framework set for doing more projects. But at the other end, the grid situation in Germany is different than the Netherlands itself. So it will come towards the situation we are facing right now in the Netherlands. I'm not sure if that stage we will reach in Germany.
Yeah, and there's probably there are slightly better, you could say, sharing or selling options as well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, that's for sure. But I think the most important topic is that the grid in Germany is way more mature, if I can use the word mature, than the Netherlands grid situation. To put it in perspective, in Germany there is no really good gas supply as we had in the Netherlands back then. 40 years ago in the Netherlands, we decided to heat on gas, to cook on gas, and that kind of stuff. So the electricity need was lower than the need in Germany, because the electricity in Germany is also used to cook and also to heat. There are different ways of using electricity, but really plainly said. And in the Netherlands, 40 years ago, they made also the decision, okay, we just need a sort of minimum to put our light on, and we never really fully invest in making the grid future-proof. Actually, we moved that decision a little bit in front of us, phasing 2 years ago. That okay, wait a second, this whole energy transition is eating the capacity of the grid in a completely different way, because there's a lot of overcapacity put in the grid constantly, and no one is going to use it. But yeah, the cable has the same thickness for users and for the demand itself. And that nailed us in the Netherlands, I would say, a little bit, where in Germany that overcapacity is actually already there. And it has more to do also with the fact that in Germany we had sort of energy transition ramp up in the early 10s, and they already experienced that, okay, wait a second, the balance on the grid will become different there. So we need to invest already earlier in the grids to make it more future proof. And I think in the Netherlands we thought differently there.
It's fascinating, actually. And I mean, if you think about just that single nuance that you just made across all of the countries globally, I'm sure they have their own stories as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, without being too stereotypical, it's also incredibly German, that they were able to, start this ramp up back in the early 2010s, identify that, maybe we have to do something like this for the future and put the action in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. And a Sunrock focus, you only focus on Germany, or do you have some business in the Netherlands and the Benelux as well?
No, I'm not only focusing on Germany, but my role is internally a little bit bigger than just putting projects on, or actually win projects and make sure that we can build them. So I'm also involved, of course, with the business we are doing in the Netherlands itself. And that's also interesting for my hybrid role, is that I'm also sitting in the Amsterdam offices, and I have quite some experience building the project in the Netherlands from the past. I'm also a good sparring partner when it comes to the issues we are facing here.
Yeah, I can imagine. What route do you think the Netherlands will take in the near future to try and solve some of the issues that they've encountered?
Yeah, good questions. Good question, and not an easy answer, I would say, because there are different routes. That is also we are in the middle still finding out what is our best route. But if I have a blank page and I draw that route now on the spot, I would say that the imbalances should be solved, right? That is the need, the first need that we need to tackle. So the imbalance on the grid, and we know that we want to go further on the route of this energy transition towards renewables, and that is already a done deal. We are so far already. The tipping point of turning back is already 10 years ago. My question then towards how can we improve this imbalance on the grid is split it in a couple of options, and that is one option is. Make sure that local consumption is used as efficient as possible. And then looking at households, I'm sitting here in my attic. I have 8 panels on my rooftop producing energy. Back in the days, we were actually using the dishwasher during night because the electricity was then cheaper.
Yeah.
But nowadays it turns around. It's not about we do not have that cheaper price option anymore because the volatility of the energy prices is so extremely that it is more connected towards during the day the sun and the wind. The sun is shining and the wind is blowing. That causes a lot of peak of energy availability. So actually I need to switch then my dishwasher on. And my washing machine and all kind of electrical users at home means local consumption profiles needs to shift, and how we think about our energy usage as a society needs to shift in that sense as well. Yeah. And I think that is the important one, and also the most difficult one, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we are both deep in the industry, right? And we're talking about this kind of every day, but it does amaze me how if you go and speak to somebody outside, they wouldn't have a clue about these type of topics. And how do we get to the point when this can be communicated? Because it seems quite simple, right? The switch is how we can help the storage issue is that we're using your higher usage items at a more convenient time, i.e. when it's sunnier.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, talks, of course, but talks will never use to my understanding. In the sense of talks with a certain part of the population will work, and they will see it does make sense then to use more electricity during the day and change my pattern. But I think the best solution is a price instrument, and we see it already right now in the market. Is that the volatility on the electricity price is way higher. That is a risk. That is a risk premium actually. So if you now going towards your local energy supplier, your energy supplier, and you're asking for a year contract or 3 years contract, they are giving you a price which is higher than a couple of years ago, because that volatility in the market needs to be priced in. You see that electricity is getting more expensive, and secondly, there's also a price component, is that the grid fees you need to pay are rising as well, because it takes more effort to balance the energy on the grid itself. And we're now discussing within the politics in the Netherlands about do we need to get rid of that salderingsregeling? So people that have solar panels on the rooftop and are fitting into the grid, getting sort of bonus. Basically, that is a sort of incentive to keep the old pattern alive, I would say. So also when that is going to be stopped, early 2027, it's like a pain, but actually helps us in change that transition also in the society.
Yeah, indeed. But my question again is, does the normal man or the normal woman understand that, right? Do they understand what? Yeah.
Yeah, when there is when there's a cost saving aspect behind it, then I think that will be the argument then to change.
Yeah. It
That's my
helps.
belief. I would say it helps. But to be honest, it will not only be coming from society itself and a change in mindset. I think the imbalance on the grid will also be solved by, and maybe you have seen it as well, but we are also busy with really large scale batteries, building them across the Netherlands, but actually across Europe. And then I'm not talking about an 1 megawatt or 10 megawatt, but really 180, 240 megawatt hour projects. And that will, when that is being built, that will also make sure that the imbalance on the market will stabilize a little bit more. So the volatility that we are seeing right now in energy prices will go down a little bit. And that together with the society topic that I meant, I think will bring us towards the next level within this whole and energy transition.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's a common theme topic across the world, as is I think multi kind of utility projects as well, and utilizing multi utility a little bit better. Just before we kind of wrap up, Roderik, I always like to go back a little bit to the beginning, and your route is quite an interesting one. We place a lot of developers and project developers across Europe with a real estate background. What would you say to let's say a younger, more aspiring kind of real estate expert that was thinking about making the transition into renewables?
Yeah, just go for it, I would say. Yeah, it is. The renewable sector brings, for me at least, more happiness in life because there's a clear purpose behind it, and in that sense, you can easily match it towards your own agenda when it comes to, okay, what is my purpose in life? What do I want to reach when I look back 50 years later, when life end is kicking in or it's coming in? Secondly, I want to say it is one big adventure, and it's even. I know the real estate sector is also quite an adventure. Most of the time, a fast-paced environment, but the renewables is even more a fast-paced environment. Those two makes it, for me, a more interesting sector to work for than the real estate sector.
Yeah, I agree, and it's we talk a lot about like political instability when it comes to renewables. I get a lot of people mentioning various administrations and how it's having an effect on the renewable in that country or that region at that time. But it's not going anywhere, right? We're on a clear path, like you've said. We're past the tipping point. 100 years from now, the world will run on renewables, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can also look at waves. There are always during a century there are always waves that we are flying on. And I think for me, the energy transition is one of that big waves that we are on at the moment.
Yeah,
the other
agreed.
wave we are also seeing already, but it's a completely different topic, I think. But it's clearly I think 5-10 years ago. That wave ramped it up across the whole world. I would say it's clear that there is indeed what you're saying. The tipping point has reached. There is no way back anymore.
And what's in the kind of near to immediate future for you, Roderik, at Sunrock?
Well, near future for me is let's say I'm really quite strong in telling the story. I would say. Well, maybe you can say maybe something different. Hopefully not, but and also a convincing way of doing it. So put it all together, I think my route is more client focus. So more focus on what the client needs are, and also bring him along with the story that we are just constantly talking about. Is that there is no way back. The energy transition is the path going into. You can decide to be part of it or not, and running behind. So what are we going to do to solve this issue together with you? So that clearly goes into business development, commercial strategy, for Sunrock in general, that is across the 3 countries and maybe even more. Let's see.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We just said offline, you are the first guest I've had in the same city. So if we ever do this again, we'll make sure we do it in person.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll put all the links below and how to access Roderik's work and Roderik's profile and things like that. But thanks for coming and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Tom, for having me.